important to understand that you gotta look at things that are gonna affect you rather than like, oh my god, he's an asshole. Like,
Yeah.
and this doesn't just go for Trump. Like in the future, you know,
Hmm.
like what if there's like a Democrat candidate that has good policies, but it's just like his per. I mean, it is important to know that Trump's leadership, whatever you want to call it, the way that he drives himself, is part of what makes him succeed. But I guess what I'm saying is that the personality of the president is not what you should really be putting as a priority on your decision. You want to see what they're backing up. You know, like I wish
Right.
that for people that don't know, there's this lady that's actually in the Libertarian Party, which is really
Hmm.
where I identify. You know, I mean, I identify as a cisgender male in the afternoons. In the evening, it might get a little bit vague, but politically, I identify as a libertarian. And there's this lady who's called Joe Jorgensen,
Jorgensen.
and she's
Mm.
like of Nordic descent, Denmark, I think. And for people that are
Sheesh.
talking about like, oh, what about a third choice? Look at her, you know, at her policies, and it's very clear things, very, um, you know, I just think it makes sense. But yeah, like what Steven was saying, sometimes we only look at the optics and we don't end up looking at the background of what's happening. DJ BJ gave us a little bit of your insights regarding the restrictions and how do you tie that up with your political views and how does that is that affecting the way that you looking at this whole election?
Okay, so just to backtrack a little bit, as far as looking at the qualities of a president, let's say, okay, so what he says doesn't necessarily bother me per se. What bothers me is the fact that he's consistently lying for no reason when he could just simply tell the truth, you know? I mean, not just okay. Let's take Trump out. Let's say you see a presidential candidate, and he's constantly claiming things that he's done, and then when you actually do the research about what he's done, it's the opposite, or it's not consistent with what he's saying.
You got an
Then
example?
no matter, no, I'm just saying in general. Like let's say you're looking at two candidates,
No, I know, but I'm saying
and one of
I would
them,
assume you're saying this because you're trying to drive the point that Trump lies.
not necessarily because it could also be Biden lying. Like I said, I haven't done enough research into each
Mm.
candidate as to what they're promising, what they're claiming that they have done, and what they actually did. You know, like the whole fact checking kind of scenario. Like, is it okay for somebody in that position to lie? Because, like, for example, if the president knows that there's like an impending alien invasion, but he lies about it to the public to keep them calm, is that something that's acceptable of the president
Yeah,
to
but I mean, like,
know that he's gonna
what is
lie?
your
Or
point though? Like what I'm trying to say is, because like if you're saying both of them lie, then I
hmm
think that just puts them back in the same place. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you're telling me no,
hmm
Trump is being caught lying, so that's something that we need to keep an eye on. But Biden doesn't lie, then I could be like, okay, that's. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that okay, let's just assume that they're both trickerish and fucking sneaky motherfuckers, because they are. I mean, that's what they're doing, right?
okay,
Based
so
on
then
that, what is
assuming that they're both true.
yeah, like I mean, like we were
Uh-huh.
talking about the restrictions, right? You live in
Uh-huh.
Florida, so you know how shit
Right.
works. You know, at least works around there. Maybe you don't go out too much because, you don't wanna get the Rona. But how do you feel about this? Do you think that government should restrict businesses this much? And do you feel that this is fucking up shit, or do you feel like no, you know what? I'm in Florida and this is chaos and this should be regulated. Like, how does this make you feel? Because I'm pretty sure that people are basing a lot of what they're gonna vote on how things are displaying during the corona, because this is
Mm,
putting out in evidence a lot of policies and things. And I'm not going one side or the other. I mean, how do you see it? I'm not in Florida, so I don't know how
right.
things are.
Right. Essentially, it feels like everybody, like it just went away. That's because everybody's like going back to normal. Everybody's going out. I see people going to El Patio. I see people going to different clubs. Yeah, there are certain restrictions as to like how close they could get to people. They have like little separated dividends and stuff like that. But I do see people just like pretending like it's not real or something to a certain extent, but for their convenience to be able to just enjoy life or whatever they call life at that point in time. The restrictions have affected me because of the fact that once again I lost my job. So due to the restrictions of everything closing down and flights and all that stuff, um, but I do feel like um, they say what my parents say in Spanish. A veces la cura es peor que la enfermedad, meaning
Mm,
like sometimes the cure is worse than the disease.
mm-hmm.
So yeah, the restrictions were good at the beginning, but not extended for this long. So I think
Yeah.
it's gone past the point of restriction and more like mitigating,
Yeah.
like accepting the fact that this is part of reality now, corona.
Yeah.
Either you're not going to eliminate it. It's just there all at 24/7, 365. So, take the proper precautions to avoid getting it,
Mm-hmm.
but still function or try to return back to normal function.
So would you
Cuz
leave it
Yeah.
to the personal decision?
Um, I think it's dependent on the amount of cases per day in that area. So if your area has very low cases per day, you should be able to function normally. But if your area keeps on going up and up and up, then think about what you're doing that's contributing to this, and change it.
Yeah.
Like imagine if you broke your wrist and you had a cast and they took it off and you're like, well, my wrist is fine, it's okay. No, 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 but you're gonna have to keep on wearing the cast for another 6 months.
Okay, so then would you say like you're not really on one side in that topic specifically? Like maybe it's just like a case by case for you in that sense?
In the sense of restrictions, I feel like removing the restrictions now after so much time has passed would help alleviate the economy, as long as the numbers don't go up. If the numbers start
Yeah.
going back up, then we got problems. And I don't know if our economy or if the United States or if the world can take another massive shutdown.
It's just like it's
Mm-hmm.
very hard, man, because this is the other thing too. You start to think, and this is coming from someone that like I'm scared of this shit,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's now they're saying that this shit is airborne, like confirmed airborne. So it means that the masks do very little. So if that's the case, then wherever you're at, if somebody has it, you're fucked. Like regardless,
now
like
when you're saying confirmed airborne, like you're meaning that like the person breathes and it comes out.
like it means that like from what I understand is that it's not droplets that would come out of your mouth and fall. Apparently, smaller particles that just stay in the air, and like it's just a lot easier for it
But
to
but
to be transmitted.
but that's microparticles that it still to a certain extent have like mass or like have like little
Yeah, I mean,
really
I
tiny
would
droplets,
assume
but that can
eventually they
stay
drop, but when they say
floating. Like it's
airborne,
not just it's not just in the air. Like it's not like in your breath and you're in the air. It's like there's still particles coming out of you, but they're microscopic. They can float, but the wind carries them around. Right?
right, right.
Is
But
that what you're saying?
what I'm trying to say is that like apparently it's like it's almost impossible to get this shit not transmitted, even if you're like, I mean, I guess mask and like distancing helps. Obviously, that's gotta help. But like what Steven was saying, right? Like nobody's following the regulations or whatever. Last night I went out to eat some fire food like chicken and waffles type shit, like American style.
Oof.
I'll show
Nasty.
pictures. And dude, then after that, we went to like a drinking with some friends, and
Of
they
course.
they were like, oh, we're at this bar, right? And it's like a bar that's like super cheap. They had it in Miami for a while. It's called Cien Montaditos.
It's not there. It's not here
Yeah.
anymore.
I don't think so. I think
Oh shit.
I think that market idea didn't work in Miami, but
I
whatever.
like that a lot.
It's like super cheap, right?
Mhm.
Dude,
Mhm.
this shit was packed as fuck. I'm telling you, if I
Oof.
didn't get corona, I got AIDS, some shit. And it was just like, and I was when I got there, I was like, fuck, I want to get the fuck out of here. I was just
Mhm.
telling like my friends, like, oh, let's go like to a more
A more
calm
discreet
place.
location.
Yeah, and like the guy like running the bar, every time he saw people outside, he's like, come in, this shit's empty, come in. Like,
Oh my fucking god.
dude, I was just like, what the fuck? Yeah, so I think it's inevitable. And I think it's just at this stage we need to save people. It's job, you know. And unless you get like a really hard peak, then you shouldn't really try to close down. Because the thing is, the regulations. I think more than doing anything is just to sort of make people feel like they need to sort of hold back a bit because nobody's
Mm-hmm.
really policing that. It's impossible. What do what you said, Steven? You were somewhere in Naples and that whole regulation, 60% capacity or whatever the fuck, like you didn't see that happen.